Hello and welcome to Home-Based Business Review with Carl Douglas, where we go out and find some of our best professional, experienced online marketers in the world. We have our guest, DrStan. How you doing there?
Man, I'm blessed and highly favored, just like you. Business is booming, checks is zooming. I'm happy on purpose.
I love it. And we welcome you back. We did get, last time we did an interview with you, we got quite a few comments here. Came through my email, believe it or not. But okay. We're going to address some of those questions that we have. But before I started, Doctor, I want to make sure everybody understands. If you don't have your pad and your pen with you, you're going to miss out. You will miss out. You're going to have to stop and rewind, which is okay. Rewind this recording. But keep in mind, when you first hear it, that first impression is very important to you. So make sure you write down those nuggets that you're going to receive today. So here's one of the questions I have, Mr. Dr. Stanley. One of the questions was, we want to hear about your accomplishments that you have many of. So let's go ahead and address that first.
Okay, awesome, man. Well, one thing that is, out of 7.6 billion people, there's about 100 of us that have attained the highest honors, which is the 10th degree black belt. So I retired many years ago as a heavyweight champion. I've been blessed to be voted also into the Black Belt Hall of Fame, and we just had some tremendous things. And also when I speak and also I preach, I'm able to incorporate some of the martial arts of breaking boards and bricks and laying on nails and things like that. That makes it also grabs young people's attention, right? And not only that, was the greatest thing was the whole self-discipline that I learned, because I just want to learn self-defense. He said, no. We teach you self-defense without self-discipline, you'll be like an uncontrollable weapon. And as a matter of fact, they can see some of the trophies there. A bunch of them are in the garage also, and a lot I've given away. But some of the trophies there, my championship belts back there. So that was incredible. And we have several black belts that we've trained. And so, like I said, I happen to be a grandmaster, which is the 10th degree, in what's called Isshin-ryu karate. And then I started my own style, which is called crescendo. So once you get the 5th degree master level in our style, you can start your own. I started my own style, crescendo, which is obviously, as a minister of the gospel, I want to do things from a biblical origin and so forth. And so, but the discipline though from the martial arts allowed me then, as I started also traveling and preaching, and then as you know, people would say, "Man, can I take you out to eat?" You know what that was about, right? Can we go? And they start drawing them circles, man.
Oh yeah.
But I'll never forget. As a matter of fact, it got to the point where I was a college professor. I never forget. People was like, "Hey, we can show you how to start making more money in a month than you make an entire year." Now you gotta understand, I was a poor little black boy from the ghetto, man, who made it. Like I never even thought I'd make it out of high school, much less go to college and then graduate, postgraduate work, and become a professor, right? I mean, I was one of those guys that would totally promulgate my esoteric cogitations and articulate my superficial sentimentalities with amicable and philosophical psychological observations and beware platunis ponderoses. I even knew how to let my extemporaneous verbal evaporations demonstrate or clarify conciseness, no previous garrunity or junjungbum bafflement. And according to Reader's Digest, that just means say what you mean without using big words. But anyway, but I thought I made it, man. Here I am, a little kid from the ghetto, from the hood, and like I told you last time, beaten, tarred, and feathered, and physically, sexually abused, all that kind of stuff. And so now here I am as a college professor. But somebody says, but you can start making more money in a month, you make an entire year. I'm thinking, wait a minute now. I mean, like I'm a college professor. Like I made it like everybody in my hometown, the people know, they think, man, I'm something. And so I'm thinking, and so I asked him, how much more schooling? Because I am not going back to school. I mean, 12 years of regular schooling, then 12 years of college and postgraduate. Like, no. They said, no education. No college, rather. We'll mentor. We'll teach you. And I'm not, it's kind of a funny, it's, but here's what I tell people. I mean, it didn't quite happen this way. I'm just putting in a little humor. But when I started making more money in a month, now this part was rude. Started making more money in a month. I was making an entire year. I said to my boss, "I'm sorry, I can't work for you anymore." And the boss said, "Well, Doc, what's wrong?" I said, "Man, I got eye trouble." He said, "Eye trouble? What's wrong with your eye?" I said, "I can't see myself working for you anymore." and that was in 1990, man. 1990. I've been psychologically unemployable ever since. Why? Because I learned the difference of leverage. Like John Paul Getty said, I'd rather get 1% efforts of 100 people than 100% of my own efforts. And so I'm thinking, and then I got mad because I was like, wait a minute, all these years I went to get all this education and I could have just been mentored. And I started making more money in a month than I made in an entire year. As a matter of fact, one company that I work with, I was able to, in literally from the time now they hired me to be their international training director, yes. But I said, well, I'm going to build also because I understand this game. And, some trainers, they did it 30 years ago and they can't do it anymore. I was like, no. I said, so let me be the international training director, but let me still build on the side. And so I personally was able to, sponsor some folks. And then within 4 months, I was making 6 figures a month. The team blossomed into 22,000 people. I was making 6 figures a month, not a year, a month, per month. So you just kind of do the math on that one. But anyway, and then we went on another company because that company eventually had some problems. We went with another company where they wanted me to be their international training director. And same thing. I said, look, but I want to do some building. And so that company, I personally sponsored 898 people. And the 898 people turned into 1.5 million people worldwide. As a matter of fact, now I wouldn't believe it if you told me, but I believe it because I was there. One day I had over 100,000 people join my team, not the company, my team broke the servers, man. I mean, in fact, you can ask Peter Wolfing. He was the CEO of that company. As a matter of fact, I was blessed to be at the top of 3 companies simultaneously at the same time. Number 1 income earner and number 1 recruiter all at the same time. In fact, people begged me. They said, you got to tell. So that's why I wrote a book, How to Build a Big Team Fast, because I've been blessed to be the top of 7 different companies. But with that company, by the way, I had $22,000 days. Okay. So as I'm saying, but I got mad, Carl, when I got to thinking all this college education, and then I get in a home-based business with just getting mentored, and I start making more money in a month than I was making an entire year. And by the way, then when I started speaking, becoming a professional speaker, by the way, because you can't be, first of all, I was a preacher. And then, I'm doing, and in this industry, the better you can talk, the better it is. Don't let nobody fool you, by the way. Yes, by the way, so you might get started and not know, but I'm saying to be a professional to continue on. And so then companies started paying me to speak. I'm like, whoa, right? And so, like I said, I've been blessed now to be voted into the Motivational Speakers Hall of Fame. And are you ready for this one?
Go ahead.
And you asked, so I'm going to tell you. So the most I've been paid is $47,000 to speak 1 hour. Okay, let me say it again. $47,000 to speak one. Now you're talking about a guy that went back in the day. I could probably you know what I mean? But I'm telling you, when you start having breakthroughs, I'm telling you, my friend, when you start getting powerful mentors in your life, when you start learning some principles, not just learning them, but implementing them. And by the way, Carl, you're exactly right. I like to say note takers are money makers, but action takers are bigger money makers. So it's good to take notes, but most importantly, to take action on the notes that you took. And you can't take the action if you don't take the notes, right? And there's something magical that happens when you write things down that it transfers to the brain. So we've been very blessed in our life. And like I said, if they heard the last interview, it's like that was kind of where I came from. And so we've been able, like I said, we've co-authored books with people like, Les Brown, Laurel Lagermeyer, Brian Tracy, Jack Canfield co-authored the $1 billion book series, Chicken Soup for the Soul. As a matter of fact, man, I got one in here. Anyway, but we've been at co-author books with people like that. Donald Trump years ago before he got, but anyway, but all these, a lot of the big time folks. And the amazing thing, also there's a book called Think and Grow Rich, everybody's heard of, right? Napoleon Hill. That's outside the Bible that is the most bought and sought after book and has created more millionaires. Well, there's a guy, Ted Ciuba, the only one that the Napoleon Hill Foundation allowed him, that he's able to write the new Think and Grow Rich. As a matter of fact, I see it on my shelf here. hold on one second. This is very unprofessional, whatever. But hey, it's just you. It's you and me in the crowd, right? Can we just be like we at home, right? So anyway, so he was able to write the book, The New Think and Grow Rich, which, updating it and adding folks like us, and so The New Think and Grow Rich. And long and behold, he got, there's a guy in here named DrStan Harris, AKA Dr. Breakthrough. And I got to be part of this. He asked me to write a little forward and some stuff on there. So anyway, so we've had a blessed life. So I tell people, listen, man, I was a guy that was broke, busted, and disgusted, right? But you can break through and get to the place where you get to be rich, growing, and overflowing. And we could be blessed to be a blessing to others. As a matter of fact, I've been blessed to be able to buy cars for people, right? I mean, I've had people, hey, go to the car dealership, pick out what you want, purchase it, give them the keys. And so I believe God wants to bless us so we can be a blessing, right? And it's hard to get from an empty wagon, right? So I tell people it's time to get your wagon filled up so you can be a blessing to other people. And the greatest way, I think, is one of the greatest ways, this industry of home-based business, because real quick, there's 3 levels of success. Number 1 is making money. And unfortunately, most people stop there. Now, I love people like you. You've gone beyond that. So it's not just making money. Number 2, a higher level of success is making a difference. So making money is great. But when you get to a place where when you're making a difference, but then number 3, the highest level, and this is what you've mastered, and this is what we're all about, and that is the 3rd and highest level is making money while you make a difference. So that the more difference you make, the more money you make, and the more money you make, the more difference you can make.
Yes.
So, by the way, Carl, and I'm, dude, you're a genius. You probably know it. Your wife probably told you. I'm not going to tell you you're a genius because the question what you asked me, you wanted to go through this a little bit. But here's one of the things. Everybody says this: people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Well, here's what Dr. Breakthrough says, though. Write this one down. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you make. They forgot to tell us that one, because I found out if you don't care, but you made the money, people will follow you, people will listen, right? So I'm just telling you, my friend. So people, and I'm not negating people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, but I'm telling you, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you make. Because even if you don't care about them, but they know you make the money and you can teach them, they'll listen.
That's right. I want to go back to something you said, and thank you for those. And that was very important information. I'm sure that a lot of my audience here was sitting there going with their mouth open, like, I think you lost them right when you said $22,000 a day, and like you were just mentioning just now, they care because it's either a crooked line or a straight line you're going to go.
But wait a minute, but especially when it's a guy who never thought I could ever do anything like that.
Oh yeah.
See, that's what's really powerful. Yeah, and then I was a guy who said, well, maybe other people could do it, but not me. And maybe some of your listeners are like that. And that's why I love getting a chance to do some of these things where I can help people understand. Because see, I never believed in me. It was people like you, people that God was surrounding me with, people that saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. That's why, man, I love what you're doing, bro. I love this, because people are being exposed to things. Mm-hmm. See, when you don't know anything other than what you know, you think that's all there is. So I was a little kid in the hood, in the ghetto, right? And my youth pastor, that happened to be, it was a white guy, gentleman, but he happened to live, obviously, in another town. And he invited me to his house, and I was like, dude, you want me to come to your house? I was like a 15-year-old teenager, right? He's like, yeah, of course. So he invites me over. And again, every black person's experience is not like this, right? But I mean, they have grass. I was like, dude, I mean, I grew up in a concrete jungle. Like, you got nice grass, a big yard. And I'm sitting like, and he's looking at me like, huh? And then he's calling his wife honey. She's calling him sweetheart. And man, and so I was a young guy that was never going to get married. And so I went to bed that night literally in tears. And I was like, Lord, if I could ever have something like this. And I was like, wow. And so what happened, though, I saw something different. And guess what? I hungered and I said, this is what I want. Now, thank God, I've got a beautiful wife. I call her my ABCD, my adorable brown caramel delight. And we're having a competition to see who can love each other the most. I keep telling her I'm winning. She said, no, big boy, it's a tie. But what I'm saying is this, though, if I hadn't gotten exposed to that, you know what I mean? But having that exposure, that's like, And by the way, I came home, started cleaning the house, because, the house, mom had, worked 2 jobs to try to take care of us. So she was never home. And when you got 4 boys, it was 3 of us at the time, 4. Boys was rough, right? And so, but I saw their house was nice and clean. So guess what? I started cleaning the house as a teenage boy because I figured because I felt so much better when I was in that place. I was like, man, so when the place is clean, you feel better about yourself, right? All that guy would not, well, I told him later, but he didn't know just that one time of me visiting his house. And he had no idea, right? He didn't know about me going to sleep at night and, waking up somebody hitting big old cockroach, you know what I mean? Living in rat and roach infested place, you know what I mean? But he invited me. And when he invited me, I saw something different. And that's what I love about, again, what you're doing. You're exposing people. You're exposing people, let them know, listen, my friend. And I love what Booker T. Washington said. He said, true success shouldn't be based on what you achieve. It should be based on what you had to overcome, or in my terms, what you had to break through to achieve. So some people may have achieved, quote unquote, the same thing, except one had to come through a whole lot more hurdles, a whole lot more to achieve that thing. And so that's what I'm saying. It's incredible. And so just, again, I love this. I love, see, behind the glory, there's always a story. And the problem is sometimes the story is so gory that the people don't want to tell it. But here's what I found out. My brokenness, you might want to write this down. My brokenness was a better bridge for people than my pretend wholeness ever was. Ooh, come on. Let me say it again. My brokenness was a better bridge than my pretend wholeness ever was. See, I got in this vein for a while where people were teaching me. They were like, you always the hero of every story. So you never let people, you never let people know you're vulnerable. You never let people know about your weakness. You never let people know about the struggles you had. You just always tell them the good stories. You always tell them the stories where you came out on top. You never let, you know what I mean? And as a matter of fact, my friend, one lady that purchased this book is called Your Breakthrough is Guaranteed. It's my international bestseller. Les Brown wrote afterward. Dr. Fran Harris wrote forward. But lady said, listen, that book, she said, and I didn't know it, her rent was due. She didn't have the full amount for the rent, but she bought the book. And she said, I'd have paid 10 times the amount you charged for the book. And she said, and by the way, everybody who gets it, you ought to tell them to read page 80. I'm like, page 80? So I get, I'm like, let me page 80. And when I got to page 80, I was shocked. I was like, I couldn't believe it. I was like, wait a minute. She said, no, everybody who gets that book should start at page 80. Now, again, she's coming from her experience, obviously, but I went to page 80 and I came here and I was like, what? And I say here, I'll never forget years ago that when I started a business, it made almost $30,000 in my first month. Now, 5 months later, I earned over $100,000 per month. And up to that point, I'd never made that much money in a whole year, let alone a single month. But here's what you really need to know. And I've never shared this story before with anyone. And that is, I was homeless when I started that business. I had never been close to hard times like this previously. And actually, I was staying with a friend through a business deal gone bad. And by the way, I'd put all my eggs in one basket, which it would seem like a really good basket, and it got crushed, and I lost everything. So get this, my friend. I was homeless. I was carless. Because, you hear like Steve Harvey and what's the guy in Atlanta, the studios, the guy with in Atlanta, big studios, Tyler Perry, right? Oh. So you hear about these guys living in their car, right? No, I was not just homeless. I was carless. So I didn't have a car to live out of, right? And then I was phoneless. Now that's really, really bad. Now, thank God I had a friend who had a trailer, let me stay, and then had a phone that let me use. And so, like I said, so this company called me and wanted me to do some work for them. I said, I'll take it. They're like, we didn't even tell you. I said, I'll take it. And they were going to pay me $5,000 per speech and send me on this tour. And like I said, but I started building with them. Like I said, my first month. Now they paid me $5,000 to speak, but without their pay, I made $30,000. And so, but the thing that grabbed her was the fact that she talks about the fact that I was homeless and phoneless and carless and was able to make that comeback. Right?
You were hungry.
I was hungry. You got to be hungry, right?
That's right, got me hungry.
But, hey, I was hungry, but I was hurting too, bro.
That's right.
And so somebody right now that's hurting, I want you to know, because I'll tell you a story real quick. One of my main mentors, Bill Bailey. And by the way, somebody heard me speaking. It was like, man, you remind me of a young Bill Bailey. I was like, who's Bill? They said, you never heard of Bill Bailey? I said, I never heard of Bill Bailey. Of course, he's in heaven now. But they said, man, he's a guy who had a company grossing $64 million a month back in the early days, Best Line Products. I mean, he mentored Les Brown and for 7 years, Jim Rohn worked for him. By the way, I love the time that me, Jim Rohn, and Bill Bailey were all speaking together somewhere. And then they wanted to go to Old Faithful. And so it was a 4-hour drive. I drove them 4 hours one way. We were speaking and then 4 hours back. And so you heard of driving Miss Daisy. I got to drive Mr. Bailey and Jim Rohn. And it was incredible, the things that we discussed. I did a whole training based on that. And it's called The Magic and the Mystery of the Home-Based Business Industry. And the whole thing was based on, like, these guys had nothing and they grew up and now, now they're traveling the world teaching people. And but the mystery is, why wouldn't everybody want to do that? Why wouldn't everybody commit themselves and say, and in my terms, I'm going to break through whatever barrier I have to get what I want, what I need. And so anyway, so I wanted to leave that with you, but I'm telling you, these are incredible days. I know it's hard days. I know it's challenging days, but see, obstacles always create opportunities to those that remain optimistic. Oh, let me say it again. I said obstacles always create opportunities to those that remain optimistic. See, what happens is when you always talk about your problems, you'll have more problems to talk about. But when you start talking about your potential in spite of the problems, and you start, instead of talking about what you see, you start talking about what you want to see, then you'll start seeing what you said. It's like Muhammad Ali said, greatest quote, and I covered in this book, by the way. He said, I said I was the greatest a long time. That was a long time, 2 years, 5 years, I don't know, 2 months, I don't know. But he said, I said I was the greatest a long time. Now, most people, that's the part they know. That's not even the good part. I mean, that's okay, but here's the good part. I said I was the greatest a long time before I believed it. Whoa. In other words, he said Carl, he didn't believe it, but he wanted to believe it. He wanted to be the greatest. And he figured if he said it long enough and loud enough, now he didn't know that was a biblical principle, right? Faith cometh by hearing, hearing by the word. So he figured if he said it long enough and loud enough, he'd start believing it. Of course, once you believe something, there's nothing's impossible to him that believeth, right? So right. He kept saying that, and he kept saying it, and he didn't believe it. And I'm sure, like people that, people say, oh, you need to have these affirmations, you need to say these things, and people are like, oh man, if I feel stupid saying these things. Years ago, I used to say I'm the leader that multitudes of people are looking for when I wasn't leading nothing. I'm the brother like no other when I wasn't nothing. But anyway, let me stop. Yeah, back to you.
But you know what he did? He was speaking it into his self-conscious. Because when, conscious is one thing, but that self-conscious, whoa, it propelled him to greatness. Okay. He already knew he had the skills, but like you said, the power of belief, but that comes from your self-conscious. Okay. And
well, here's the thing though, but when he first said it, he didn't even have all the skills. You see what I'm saying?
Right. Okay.
But belief, strong enough belief.
Yeah.
Well, so that's what's powerful. And that's what I'm saying. So that's why, again, what you're doing is so powerful, because people are getting exposed to things. They're hearing things that if they take action on it, because remember, we didn't go to karate preaching or karate lectures. We went to karate practice. It's a big difference. And we practice. And by the way, we practice the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over and over. And I was like, sensei, Japanese word for teacher, instructor. I got it. He said, no. He said, no, I can do it with my eyes closed. He said, that's not good enough. Excuse me? So no, you got to do it it becomes part of your subconscious, where literally without thinking it happens. Well, one day a friend of mine was on a motorcycle, Kawasaki 900, and I thought I was going to show off a little bit. And so I was a younger guy back then. I was going to show off a little bit, and had this guy, and Dr. Myron Golden, as a matter of fact. Well, he wasn't doctor back then, but anyway, Myron Golden. So he's on the back, and so I want to show off. And I didn't realize there's gravel, and I went to hit that thing, and we both went over the handlebars. And they said, how'd you do that? And I'm like, do what? Now I just hear Myron groaning. Oh! And matter of fact, bless his heart, he's still got the marks on his elbows to prove it. And so, and by the way, so I mentored Myron spiritually and in martial arts, but then that guy became such a great businessman. Then he became my business mentor, right? And that's a great thing about relationships. But he went over, skinned his elbows. And they said, how'd you do it? I said, do what? They said, well, you went over the handlebars and you flipped and landed on your feet. And I'm looking like, yeah, my hands on the ground. I'm like, that's when it hit me. That's what the sensei was talking about.
Yes.
Are you with me? So without me even thinking, I just reacted. And so, right? So I've been jumped by 5 guys on 2 occasions. I walked away without a scratch.
Wow.
I felt like they wanted a free demonstration, Carl.
You know what?
I'm just glad they didn't have guns, But anyway.
Let's go. First of all, thanks. We appreciate the information we're getting here. And I have a couple questions. First, we want to dive in for the next 5 minutes because they're at 25 minutes right now. I want to make sure we get these questions answered.
Okay.
One of the questions was skill and technique. We see you have experience. You have done it. Give us some meat and potatoes here on. So for somebody to accomplish $22,000 a day, it was something you were doing. It was not just belief subconsciously because you believed it was possible, but it was a technique. It was a system that you were using to make it happen. And of course, they got to, the book. They got to read the book. So let's go into a little bit of that. Let's give me a little taste of it.
Well, the main thing was the title of the one book says, how to build a big team fast, right? Yes. So what was it? How could you get to the point where you make $22,000? Well, you don't make $22,000 in a day if you build a team of 100 over 10 years, right? So the key is, here's the thing. And I talk about it here, there's an M that's more important than money. Most people go trying to make money, but there's the M that's 10 times more important than money. And if you create this M, you can't stop the money from coming. And that M is called momentum. See, here's what happens. So people in this industry, they mean well, but they got like now times are kind of tougher. So they're trying to make money, right? Well, the more you try to make money, a lot of times money eludes you. One of my main mentors, Bill Bailey, I started telling the story. I said, Mr. Bailey, how'd you make $64 million in a month? He said, you're asking the wrong question. I said, okay, I apologize. What's the right question I should have asked you? See, I didn't let my ego get in the way. EGO, edging God out. Ego, edging guidance out. Ego, edging greatness out. Ego, everything God opposes. No. No, I was like, okay, Mr. Bailey, I apologize. What's the question I should have asked you? He said, you should have asked me how many people's lives I added value to that resulted in $64 million. He said, if you get good at bringing value to the marketplace, you can't help but bring value back from the marketplace. So just become a master. He said, you're a spiritual man. What did the master do? I said, well, the book of Acts said he went about doing good. He said that, and he said, I'm a hillbilly. In hillbilly terms, that just means he made a difference in every person's life that he came into contact with. He said, every time you go to the store, no matter what you do, I want you to make it your point to make a difference in that person's life, encourage their day, say something, do something, smile, something that will lift their day. I started doing that and it changed my life. And so when I started doing it, instead of trying to get value from people, like most people were doing, I said, let me see if I can give value to people. So here's the thing. So to build a big team fast is gaining momentum. You have to create momentum. See, if you go after money, the money oftentimes doesn't come as fast as you'd like, and you get frustrated. And when you get frustrated, you can't produce when you're frustrated. By the way, I always like to tell people, if you are frustrated right now, by the way, then if you want to go from frustration to fruitfulness, sometimes it takes a tweak, it takes some training, or you just have to pass the test of time. Let me say it again. I just dropped some powerful nuggets. Y'all missed it. I said, if you're in a place of frustration right now and you want to go from frustration to fruitfulness, sometimes it's a tweak, sometimes it's more training, and sometimes it's just passing the test of time. See, the first company I built, I wasn't making $22,000. The second company I built, see, you know what I'm saying? So the first company I was successful, but it was a hard go because of some stuff in this I didn't know. The second company, I had more success faster. Why? Because I learned, and because of something Mr. Bailey told me. I asked him, what's the worst day of your life? He said, nobody's ever asked me that before. I said, I know how to handle the good days. I need to know what I do in the worst days. He said, my worst day is when I lost 12 million. I was like, you had 12 to lose? He said, but here's what I said to myself. If I did it before, I can do it again. But now I'm older, I'm wiser, I have more experience. So I'll do it in a shorter amount of time with less frustration. That changed my life forever. I was like, wow, I got it. And so all these different companies I became part of and started building, they changed the formula and it went down, or the owner ran off with the money and went down. And went, but you know what? I kept saying, okay, next time I'm build it bigger, better, faster, right? And so that mindset is going to help. But then the method, so again, creating momentum. How do you do that? By being consistent, day in, day out. They're doing the same thing faithfully, day by day. See, what folks want to do is they want to turn on the gas and do a big push. No. The most successful people are the ones just day by day, being consistent, talking to people, inboxing people, using Facebook, using whatever method you're using, the webinar system, whatever. Like I said last time, you want to find out from the top earners what system they use and then duplicate that and leverage that. And I gave you one of the greatest secrets ever last time, and that is, you don't have to be the deal. You just have to point people to the deal. And the more you point people to the deal, the more they associate you with the deal. And then they start thinking you are the deal. And the deal is the company. The deal is the webinar. The deal is your senior success line. The deal is that, whatever the system that people use. But creating the momentum. So it's just consistently doing things day in, day out, and your proficiency, you start getting better and better. And then you're able to do things literally effortless. It becomes like effortless. When you get that breakthrough, now you start doing effortlessly what at one time took a whole lot of effort. And so now you're able to start doing more because you've also grown in your being. See, most people are doing everything they know to do because, that's where they are. But see, you got to increase your being. And when you increase your being, then you can increase your doing, and then you can increase more of what you have. So it's like a little shot glass. You fill it up to the top, and that's all I can handle, right? But then you go to something a little bigger, right? But then you get to a place where you grow to such that you're like a gallon jug. And everybody says this, but most people don't really believe it. A true business is a personal development course disguised as a business, meaning the more you work on you, then the easier the system. So everybody wants all these tips and techniques. It's not the tips and techniques. It's what I just told you. It's the belief system. It's the consistency. It's the speaking out of your mouth until it becomes so. Because when you start speaking like that, then what happens is you start getting connected to people that give you the next piece and next piece. So success, I talk about in this book, is like a combination lock. Like you need 3 numbers and you got 2 of them. It's like it almost comes open, but it won't, right? So most people are looking for that 3rd number. And I asked them in the book, would you like me to tell you where? And of course, rhetorically, I was like, you want to know where? And I'm like, the answer is, I don't know. It might be on the next broadcast. It might be on the next podcast. It might be the next book. It might be the next challenge. And I got a challenge coming up March the 8th to the 13th, by the way. It might be. So in other words, I don't know. So you got to be like a sponge. But here's one thing I can tell you, being consistent and getting around bigger thinkers, to now you start think up in your game. See, because when I first started, I never would have thought I could have this. And then the more things started happening, I said, well, maybe I can do more. Maybe I can do more. And so all ththose decades, it got better and better and better. And I was able to build bigger and faster and stronger. And that's how, like I said, we got to that place where, like I said, within 6.5 years, I had a team of 1.5 million people. But part of that thing is, if you can point, you can get paid. Number 2, if you can praise, you can get paid. See, you got to learn to speak to people to bring the best out in them. Now, I'm not talking about these phony compliments I'm talking about you got to call stuff out of people. See, the greatest thing that I have is the ability, I believe, that when I'm working with people, I get them to believe that they can do more than they ever thought they could do. It's not always the techniques, it's the belief system. And the belief system will open the door where the techniques work a whole lot better. But most people I want to know the 1, 2, 3, this, that. It's like the martial arts. There's a difference between learning how to fight and having fight in you. When there's a guy who learns how to fight versus a guy who has fight in him, the guy who has fight in him will usually win every time. Now, whenever a person has fight in them and then they get trained on how to fight, oh, you better really watch out. So I'm telling you, my friend, one of the greatest things, I'm going to give it to you in a nutshell. You got to learn to be a problem solver or a solution provider. Every company I work with, I was like, I got to find what they do that solves a problem. And now I only speak about this business in light of its problem solving capabilities. Because last time I looked around, a lot of people got problems. And guess what? They're looking for solutions. And I talk about here in the book, number 1 thing people buy. It don't matter what color, white, black, short, shoes. It don't matter what class, high class, middle class, low class, no class. Number one thing people buy, no matter what color, what class, what country, what continent, the number one thing people buy is what they perceive to be a solution to their problems. So if you can master the ability of speaking to people only from the standpoint of how what you have will solve their problem, change their life, then people start coming, and if you give great support. So here's one thing I start saying to myself every day. Because you ever heard the statement, people love to buy, they hate to be sold, right? You heard? Because I used to say it, and then I was like, no, that's wrong. People love to buy, and they love to be sold. So here's what I say every day. People love to buy from me, and people love to be sold by me, because I only sell them what they want or need at a price agreeable to them and with customer service that exceeds their expectation. Let me say it again. I just dropped it. I said people love to buy from me and they love to be sold by me, because I only love to sell them what they want or need at a price agreeable to them with customer service that exceeds their expectation. So one of the top earners, real quick, owners of the company, we were flying around the corporate jet. We would do meetings all over the country. He'd always speak first, and then he'd say, now, he wrote a book called Guaranteed Prospects. He said, now everybody needs my book except for the next speaker. DrStan Harris, we call him Dr. Breakthrough. Said this guy can recruit people at will. He could sell ice to an Eskimo. I would get up to speak. I said, I appreciate your kind compliments. I said, Mr. Jackson, but I don't know if Eskimos need ice. I don't think they do. But if they want some, I want them to get it from me first. I mean, I like Carl, but I rather get it from I said, I can't recruit people well. I said, here's what I do. I listen real well and I watch real well. And when I see their struggles and I see their problems, I only present my business service in light of its problem-solving capabilities. So I'm not really a salesperson per se. I'm really a problem solver and a solution provider. However, when I help solve people's problems, they have a tendency to buy my product and my service, and I get paid, and I deserve to get paid. Let's see, deserve, Danish, D from, serve, service, from service. If you write the word service down, S-E-R-V-I-C-E, S-E-R-V-I-C-E. If you write that down, put 2 vertical lines to the S, 1 vertical line through the C, and it says that service is the dollar and cents of everything that we do. See, we don't do things at the expense of people. We do things at the service of people. So the more people you can serve. So what happened? I just got busy adding value. I got super consistent, creating momentum. And once you create the momentum, the money, you couldn't stop it, right? So, bam.
Well, you know what? I'm gonna tell you, I have 4 other questions for you, but we ran out of time. but the good news is those questions I was going to ask you already covered them, so we already got them answered. Thank you very much. Once again, I would love to have you back again. I
would love to be back. And by the way, if people get this in time, breakthroughfreedomchallenge.com. breakthroughfreedomchallenge.com. I'm doing a free challenge, March the 8th through the 13th, if a person gets this in time, but Breakthrough Freedom Challenge. And I'm going to be dropping some powerful nuggets, and I got some different things that's going to just literally people will have cataclysmic breakthroughs.
I love
it.
So
it's www.breakthroughfreedomchallenge.com.
Okay. So once again, Mr. Dr. Stanley Harris, we thank you from the bottom of our heart for helping these young entrepreneurs and seasoned entrepreneurs, guide them in the right direction. On my show here, what we like to say, we believe that everyone has greatness within themselves.
Yes.
You just need to release it. Sometimes you need help understanding how to release it. And that's one of the reasons why my show exists. A lot of you out there have been trying to make an extra living due to what's going on in the world, but are struggling. Make sure you come back, tell your friends about this show, and it's built for you. It's built to help you. Once again, we want to thank you, Dr. Stan Harris, Mr. Breakthrough himself, and we will have you back to drop some more mountains of nuggets. Avalanche nuggets. Well, we'll see you soon. Thanks again. Bye for now.
Thank you. We'll see you.